Hello and warm welcome to everyone joining us today. I'm your host Dalvinder Kaur from lovely Professional University. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's topic, tech-driven UX. How AI, AR, VR, and emerging tech are reshaping user experiences. Before we proceed further, allow me to introduce the experts of the day, Ms. Navjot Kaur, Assistant Professor, School of Computer Science and Engineering, Lovely Professional University. With a robust background in computer science and experience spanning both academia and industry, she has published widely in reputed journals and conferences. So now I would like to introduce Mr. Nitin Prakash. Welcome, Mr. Nitin Prakash. He's UI, UX, and interaction designer with over 10 years of experience in branding and visual identity. Mr. Nitin also serves as a design instructor at Imagine XP and a mentor at Designed.org, known for his human-centered approach. He excels in prototyping and user testing to create meaningful connections between brands and their audiences. Before we proceed further in today's session, I would like to request everyone for any questions. You can write in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and same will be addressed from my side in the end of this webinar. So I'm going to hand over this session to our experts, Ms. Navjot Kaur and Mr. Nitin Prakash, and it would be an absolute delight to listen from them. Over to you both. Yes.
Very good morning. Hope everybody is doing really well. Uh, so a little bit about myself. I am a UX designer. That's what I like to be called as. But I've excelled in a lot of things. And I happen to run a design firm called the Tribe Team. So it primarily works on AR, VR, and AI. So it's a four-year startup, and we build experiences around that area. So first and foremost, I would like to start off with a few things. There might be a little questions where I would be asking. If you have answers, just put it out there. But I might not be able to read through all of your answers, but I'll still try to answer all the questions that might come at the end. Okay. On the very first front, right? The very first question that I have is, have you used AI? Now that has become like the buzz term that is out there, and everybody is going gaga about it. Like the AI, that AI, and this AI. I mean, recently I even came across something called AI for cheating. They have an official application that's a company altogether that has been building and running a subscription on it as well. So yeah, have you used AI? Let me take a minute and think about it. Have you used AI? So if you did so, did that work? Right? And often I come up with answers, people saying that no, at first I thought AI is a great thing. AI is something that's going to make my life completely easy. But uh, but I often ended up with irrelevant answers, irrelevant stuff, or maybe I asked for something else and it ended up giving me something else. And there's also another set of answers that comes in. Okay, with AI, often we start with something and it always leads to something that we learn, but again our primary problem hasn't been solved yet, right? So there is a mismatch that we'll address that, but first and foremost we need to really understand how does this system work, right? So when we are talking emerging tech, so there is AI, there is AR, there is VR, then there's something called MR, which I'll show you in a short while. But yeah, so how does these things work? Where does why do they say that these are the next big things that are going to be out there in the market, right? So let's just decode AI first, right? And first and foremost, I'm sure you all might have gone through this, which is uh, AI has been there from a long time. What it was doing was it was just executing set of instructions, like your calculator. You wanted to do XYZ things and it just basically does that and shows it to you. or your computer. You wanted certain XYZ things to be done, and in that set predefined instructions, it was able to execute things, right? Then your system has, now what changed? It started to learn, it started to think by itself. So when you're applying a set of instructions to self-learning and self-thinking capability, then it becomes a giant, as simple as it's your Einstein in your own basement, right? And there's a catch to it. Even though you have an Einstein in your own basement, remember when I asked that question, did the AI work for you? And most of the answers that I pretty much get is, uh, yeah, they say it's a powerful tool, but it's not that, it did not work out for me. Trust me, it's the same Einstein in your basement. But the only reason why it did not work out for you is because it has biggest limitation, which is nothing but you. Yes, I do mean that. So, what is that limitation? It's your capability of imagination, right? And it's your skill of how to ask it, right? And that's what creates it. And you all know this AI has this something called neural network, right? In which it basically, you might have come across this diagram where there were so many nodes. I mean, for a layman, it might not make sense, but it's the ultimate reasoning and all of that. So, in a pretty much sense, how does this neural network work as, right, you give certain text, certain inputs, which might be text, audio, video, or something, and then it converts into binary, and then it kind of computes and then throws out binary, and that converts into images in a simple, a layman sense. Okay, let me go back. In a simple and a layman sense, when you say dogs are animals, and then you give certain other information in a different context, so then it can bring in both of them together. And in a simple context, okay, there are different types of AIs that are out there which are helping you. One is you give it text, and then it gives back text. Then there's another version, which is an upgrade version, which is then you give it text, and then it gives you image. So you say Einstein sitting in a basement. Maybe you never had a photograph that has Einstein actually sitting in a basement, but still it computes both of these, basement and Einstein, into a context and then puts it together. An ugly cat, another example. Then you added different artistic elements to it or whatsoever. Then you have image to image, where you give two different images, like Einstein in the basement and an ugly cat, and you ask it to combine. Then it kind of throws up. It imagines that, and it kind of throws up the result for you. And then image to image, where it kind of brings in all of that. So what's happening with this is you're giving all of these different types of inputs, and you're ending up creating something that is not there in first place. That way the surfing is not a thing. I mean, you that's not a real thing that was there, but still your AI was capable of doing it. Now coming to the context, so this is all the background of why AI is such a big thing. But coming into the context of how it is working out in today's day-to-day set is, uh, I'll give you a good example. I run this company, as I was saying, the Tribe team. So we've been working with a client. It's a pretty well-known well-known company. So they have the setup that they've created, which is nothing but a simulator for a power plant. So what it does is it has set of like 50 different scenarios, and it just throws those scenarios, and the trainees are basically learning through it. And when I spoke to them, uh, that is a system that they've created maybe 5 years back, and they've commissioned it with the highest budget that they could ever did in their entire organization, and they've done that. Now, what are the limitations to it? Now it does simulation really well, but it only does it for a set of predefined things. But with that, combine that with an AI. So what we did was we've given them a platform using just the AI. So all these capabilities that I've just shown you, like text to text, text to image to image, right? The pretty basic stuff that I've given, they've used the same logic behind it. And what we did was we piled in all the case studies that are there in the power plants over the past maybe 20, 30 years. Then we piped in all the knowledge base of how actually a power plant works. Then we piped in some of the relevant data, and boom, we have a simulator that can easily simulate, or no matter whatever the situation it is. Just like you have two different images, and it was able to give you an image that is very different. In a similar sense, the AI is enabling us in that way. Now the fundamental question comes: how authentic is it? Because right now, if you are seeing, uh, maybe Nathan, you were able to kind of pull up a really good image like Einstein like this, but when I tried Einstein, it was not so good. Here's the thing: like I said, it depends on the kind of prompt that you give. So if you can really engineer that right, and that's where the UX and the UI folks come in, wherein they help the user to kind of prompt it right so that the system can understand much better and can give you a powerful result as this, right? So AI has been there for a longest period of time. That's something that I wanted to state too, and it has amplified the way that we function. It has amplified the way that we produce. It has been amplifying the way a lot of things. I would love to share this cool story, right? Um, the OpenAI, the first time when they've been working on this AI for a longest period of time, and overnight at some point their developers realized that the system was giving them relevant answers and a powerful answers, like it was able to rethink and kind of give all the stuff that we are right now using, right? So even those guys really did not understand at the starting point, like how in the world did it work, right? So AI has been there for the longest period of time, like I said, and the reason why it is so powerful is all because it relies on this data, the neural network that it functions with. The more the data that you give, the more that it is strong. So tomorrow, when you are looking at any sort of AI after this session, look at it from that perspective. Like, what is the data set that it had? And then measure it to how good it is. I'm sure most of you have iPhones with you. Have you tried Apple Intelligence? Maybe it started to not really work out the way that it was supposed to work out, but give it time, give it that period, it start to learn. The same happened with the Siri as well. Siri is, in a way, is also an AI, but it has a limited capabilities as such. It's a voice assistant. That's the production phase to it, but the heart of it, the basic functionality that goes into it is pretty much that, trying to go out and figure out what is relevant and kind of bring it back. So that's on the AI. So then I have something that I would love to talk about, which is extended reality. Now, before we get there, one question that I would like to get on the same page with you is 3D. See, a lot of us understand. I mean, when I started working in 3D probably 7 years back. Um, Before that, my understanding of 3D was pretty much limited to movies having a depth effect, right? But that's not it. The actual difference of a 3D is, you have in 2D you have only two dimensions, which is an X and Y, which will only give you certain understanding, whereas in 3D you have Z-axis as well. The understanding of this is pretty much important when before we talk about AR, VR, and MR, because if you don't know the Z-axis, anything that you are seeing, or even anything that I'm going to show you right now, will kind of feel like a magic, for lack of a better term. Yeah, yeah. Extended reality. So pretty much, you might have this, might for a few people this might feel like it's a alien term. The term that is in function is nothing but XR. So we highlight the X in this, and our XR, that is nothing but extended reality. So what does extended reality means, right? So in a nutshell, the very layman definition of this would be, in our day-to-day life, we see people, we are in a different environment, or in our home, maybe in our office, or maybe in our college, or whatsoever. So this is our real world, real life, real people, real objects that are there, which are physical in nature, right? And we are interacting with them. The way that we interact, we touch them, we feel them, and we talk to them, and all of that. So that is our real life, that is our reality, right? Now you add physical terms to physical layers to it, when I say physical layers, sorry, digital layers. When you add digital layers to it, that's where you bring in augmented, mixed, and virtual. A simple definition is this, right? So real world is on the end of this spectrum, which is your day-to-day life, how you're dealing with it. A virtual world is, we all know VR, right? VR is basically a completely digital world in which you are interacting with elements that are not real. You are in a different space altogether. Somewhere in between is where you get augmented and mixed. Now, a lot of times people know AR because everybody might have played Pokemon Go and other applications that have been there in the market. But not many people know what is mixed reality, right? That might be a very new term. I do have like few experiences that I would love to show you, but before I get there, right? Augmented reality. Augmented reality is nothing but you're overlaying digital objects in your own physical environment. Whereas mixed reality is merging these digital objects. When I say merging, you're bringing in the physics of the real world to the digital objects that are placed in the real world. Okay, so that might take time to sink in. Don't worry. When I show you an example of it, it'll completely make sense. Yeah. So let's first talk about the easiest thing in this lot, which is your virtual reality. And I'm sure everybody might have tried once or twice, right? And for the folks who are into gaming and all, I'm 100% sure you have experienced virtual reality in your day in your life like multiple times now. But in a very layman terms, virtual reality, you're basically getting into a different experience, like the image that I'm showing you here, where you are placed in a different room and you have different interfaces that are helping you to interact with. Right now, you take the same context and apply it to different industries. It works differently. So I'm going to go that down that route. But before that, in a simple sense, you have your device, which your head mounted device, which you put on your head, and then you have two different sticks, which are your controllers, which will help you to interact with the elements. Now, the way that your system works is your system understands where you're looking at, because the placement of your, let's just, my specs are headgear, let's just assume that. So wherever I'm moving it, so it does have that understanding. Just the way that I've shown you this image, the system understands where it is placed and where is it looking at, and that way it can bring up different interactions that are associated with it. And an interesting way of uh, the mixed the VR boxes, where you as a human is using these controllers or your hands to interact with these elements. Now, there are different sets of interactions that go into this. Uh, First is completely creating a virtual world, which your Oculus does it, your HTC Vive does it. But there's also other set of systems which also bring in your real environment, because the feedback is more important. But again, we'll talk about that. But still, on the VR front, there are applications that just like this, which will help you. So I'm going to play this small snippet. I'm not going to run it longer. So what's happening here is this is one of the favorite game of mine, which is Beat Saber. Uh, Trust me, this really helped the VR to kind of shine a lot. So the way you're interacting is you have controllers. There are different cubes that are coming in. All you're doing is hitting the cubes, and it is so accurate that, and the feedback from the controllers is so accurate that it helps you to kind of smash things, and you can feel that effect as well. So what's happening here? You're basically in a different virtual world, uh, and you are interacting with the objects that are there in that. Now, does the real world physics apply here? Not really. It has its own physics. For example, if you're looking at the ground of this, it looks like you're levitating, right? So that's not a real world physics. So you can, with VR, what you can do is you can bring in whatever physics that you want to build in for that particular environment. That's another ability that you can bring in. Then, what could be the rules of this VR? Right? So the rules could be anything that you define. So it's basically you are creating your own island where whatever the source of truth that you want it to have, it will have. Right? So let me pause this. Yeah. So how do we apply this in the industrial? Because see, from the gaming standpoint, this sounds really cool, but gaming is to a certain level. But what about the business world, the applications of it, right? So one, VR has been widely used in the training sessions, right? Today, for example, if you have to train somebody who is whom you are getting into a petroleum rig or somewhere, right? It costs a lot. It takes a lot of time, and the safety is way up, at a caution level, right? So you really don't want to mess that up. So what you end up, what the business are doing, they're always ending up only sending the senior most people, which are only limited lot, and they have only limited section of things that they can do. So with VR, what it is enabling them is to train all of these folks in a virtual environment where even if you do a mistake, you can communicate the repercussions of the mistake, but not really losing what you actually have in the physical world. That is one of the biggest applications in VR that we are seeing. We have started even seeing Army using it to train their troops, Air Force using it to train their pilots, then we are seeing Navi using it to train their troops as well, right? So these are like very wide applications. Now, one of the things that we really need to concentrate when we are working in VR, because in VR, I mean, the moment when I'm talking about these training, a lot of ideas might pop in. But one of the primary things that you really need to understand in VR is, even though it is a new world that you can create for yourself, there are certain limitations or certain guidelines that you need to follow to make sure that you are going there. For example, you have your desktop. It's a limited set of 1080 pixels real estate that you're working with. Any information that you might show is limited to that. Same way your phone. Your phone has somewhere around 375 pixels in width. That's the real estate that you have, and everything that you are showing is you will play only in that area. In a similar sense, your VR also has that set of things where they were in certain angles, so the 10 to 20 degrees of angle from the eyes, so that focal view, that's the only area that is comfortable for the user. Rest of all is a peripheral thing. So whatever you're playing has to be limited in that you have to consider these angles in place and work around with it. A better understanding of this graph would be something like this, where that's your comfortable zone, and this is the peripheral zone, and everything in the foreground has to be small. Everything in the midground is the area where you are basically focusing a lot, right? And then you have background elements. These are elements that are supporting your experience. Now, how much of an adoption is there in the market with respect to VR? Um, there is huge adoption. So if I started working in VR from 2016, earlier when we started, there were very limited set of cases and very limited set of people that were even taking it. And one of the bright things about COVID is that everything moved digital. And now it's the VR first applications that we are looking at. In my own company, we have, even though we do a lot of AR, there's a lot of requirement that flows in from the VR. Yeah. So I'm gonna, since I have very less time, I'm gonna cut short few things and kind of jump into uh, all the elements so that I cover the bandwidth. Then the next one is my favorite, which is augmented reality. Now, the way that augmented reality works, in a simple sense, we perceive the world with our eyes, and that's how we know certain thing is certain far away, certain things are has certain depth, and etc. Right? In the same way, your phones have something called lidars, or your camera. That's also a good source, which can really understand how a vertical plane, a horizontal plane, and how far something is, and what angle is your phone to it, right? In that sense, it is able to kind of pull that off and kind of give you an experience, right? In a simple sense, the- let me just show you. That way, it is much easier. Um, okay, let me just stop sharing once, and I'll reshare. So this is one of the devices. This is AR and as well an MR device. primarily an MR. That's how technically I call it, but it also supports AR as well. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you an AR experience uh, where I would place an object right in front of me, and I'll just share my screen so that you're also seeing it. Then understand how the physics works. So before we get into it, certain technicalities that I need to let you know. These devices have like a bunch of sensors, cameras all around. So what it does is it knows my hands, it knows my eyes, it knows where I'm looking at, and accordingly it can kind of build me experience. Okay, so I'm going to put this on and share my screen. Just allow me a minute. Okay, let me just share my screen. Oops. I'm sorry, I was supposed to switch this on, but I kind of missed it. Yeah, I think now I can share. I'm sharing my screen, and then yeah, there you go. So you're gonna see my table and all based on minor pattern. But yeah, so you're seeing, right? So whatever I am seeing is whatever is being displayed on my device is what you're viewing. So just the way I told you, it understands my hands, and based on my hand movement, there are different gestures that come in, right? So yeah, I'm just closing different elements. I don't really have to go through it, but still, from a far distance, I just have to look at things, and they kind of pop up. Right, I'm going to show you one of the experience that we managed to build, which will help you get a much more better sense. Oh yeah. So you see that as soon as I am looking, wherever I'm looking, the arrow is kind of moving, right? So let's just say I fix over on this place and I click on it. There you go. Right. So I do have the ability to interact with this element, right? Now it understands our old physics because that's the reason it is able to kind of stand wherever I am keeping it. Then I also have the ability to interact with this entire turbine engine, for example. Click and open it. So, or maybe I do have some predefined animations that are there, right? So with this, what's happening here is unlike virtual reality, where you are supposed to get into a complete immersive virtual world where you might not have an understanding of its own physics, your learning curve is more, your motion sickness is more. Whereas in AR and MR, you have the ability to live in your own experience, which is this is my office that I'm sitting in, and still yet have the digital world experiences like this to whatever scale that I want. Now, even though there's a lot of animation, I still have the ability to kind of interact with the modules, right? So this is one of the experience. Probably I'll just show you one more and then we can jump into the specifics. Probably let's just take uh, induction motor. That's a classic topic, right? Very common to. So for me, when I was in engineering, the induction motor took a really long period to understand. But when I was able to look at what my team has built, it was pretty clear. So these are different steps. There's about 9 steps. See that? Then I do have another step that talks about stature. And then I have another one that talks about this. So with this, I don't really have to change my view, but I'll do this. Yeah, the router, right? And the induction motor. Now, this one thing really messed up with me when I was studying, but now it absolutely makes sense how the magnetic field kind of works and the induction motor and how things play out the way that they are supposed to play out, right? So this is one. In a similar sense, we also have, I mean, we can actually show a lot of experiences, but I'm going to stop it now. Uh, yeah, I'm going to reshare my screen. Yes. Yeah. So like I was saying, with AR, you have immense possibilities that you can bring in. Now, the question that comes over what's the difference between AR and MR? Now, the same experience that you have seen with the head-mounted device, it has the physics understanding, and the same way when you're talking about AR device, it also has a physical understanding. There is a little bit of a difference, but the modality that you or the flexibility that you get in the MR is much higher than an AR. So with MR, you will have an ability to actually place elements and they act in your own environment. Whereas in AR, you really don't get that. I do have a video that I would love to show you. Uh, right after this. So what you're seeing is an MR experience, and how would that work in the context of probably a business, right? So this is one set of video that I would love you guys to watch. Of MR would work. But unfortunately, we are there. We are not, in India, we don't see, unfortunately, actually, in India, we don't see much of these applications. But if you're talking on a world construct, a lot of workspaces have moved on to virtual spaces where people are interacting and kind of brainstorming and kind of using it the way that it has been shown in the video. So, what's the fundamental difference between that and the fundamental difference between AR, right? So, here's something that I would love to show you. I'm trying to connect this to my phone. Um, so just share screen. Still not able to. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it out. I would love to answer them.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Nitin Prakash. It was a great session. Brilliant. Okay, we
Thank you.
have some questions with us. Thanks for giving me chance to address your questions. And now let's start with the first question. Radhika is with us. Radhika is asking, how is artificial intelligence personalizing user experiences across different digital platforms, and what are the ethical implications of this personalization?
Yeah. There are two questions there. So the first one is, how do you bring in the AI in a personalized sense in terms of different experiences that I've built, right? I'll give you a good example of a working example that we're doing, which is uh, we do have these training sessions in AI. Not many of all of them are so interactive, or probably very limited in scope, where your devices cannot carry all the information. Those are the cases where you kind of bring in AI into it, where you're interacting with some sort of a bot. Now, there's a fundamental difference between a bot and an AI. A bot does instructions, whereas AI has its own independent thinking. So these AI things are basically chiming in into those experiences which are enforcing um, better learning. For example, think of a small button that is out here. You right now you posted a question, and man is asking me and I'm answering it. Whereas think of an AI that kind of jumps in, which I pre-feed all the knowledge that I have with that AI. Now, while I'm doing the session, any question that you might have, you just ask it, and the AI basically answers the way that I would answer that question with the knowledge that I have, right? So that is the power of it. Now, it comes with a cost. The cost that we are talking is you don't have your own copyrighted, or your own ownership on certain things. So for these systems to really work better, they would really need to understand you, or you need to feed them as much information as you want, and that's where your ethical things come in play, right? Um, am I consenting for it? Am I not consenting for it? Right. So, for example, there is this new trend that came in. I forget the name, but it's basically cartoonizing all the pictures that are there. Now, what's the best side of it is you are part of the trend, and you're loving the output, the artistic output of it. But what you're losing there is your own personal data. Now the system basically knows all about you, who you are, and can tag a name to it. Maybe if you have created with your personal email account, it knows your personal email account. If you're corporate, it knows about your corporate and all of that. So there are ethical concerns that are out there. And I think Google has been working a lot on bringing in these ethical standards and guidelines in place. But at this point, to be honest, the world is still working on how to build ethical standard guideline that anybody could follow and kind of build according to that. It's in a work in progress sort of a concept, but you still can read about it a lot on Google AI guidelines. You have AI guidelines from XR community. There is AI guidelines in all different places, but Google is one good source, and Microsoft is also another good source. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nitin Prakash. I hope, Radhika, you got your answer from our today's expert. Gurpreet is with us. Gurpreet is asking, in what ways are augmented reality and virtual reality enhancing or challenging traditional UX design principles?
Oh yeah. So that's the fundamental thing, right? A lot changes in UX because earlier your world and your interactions and your feedback, everything is limited to a certain real estate, right? A certain width by height real estate where you're interacting with it. But when it comes to AR, VR, and MR, you're getting into a 3D sense, right? And all your interactions change. For example, in your mobile or maybe on your desktop, you click on it and that's how you tap something or you interact with it, right? Whereas in a 3D world, for example, if I give you this big of a button, how would you interact with it? You would put the entire hand there, right? So your interactions completely change. And that interaction is not static. For example, in a mobile, your button, no matter whatever page you put in, it's the same sort of interaction, same way that a person would interact with it. When it comes to AR, VR, if the button is closer, person would touch like that. If a button is very far, they would reach out like that, right? Or if it is way too far, probably they'll try to use a controller to interact with it. Now you have the same button, just because it is placed in a different z-axis, the interaction has changed. So the world of UX will drastically change. It was a very hard learning curve for me when I was learning in 2016 how to build for this. But right now there are a lot many guidelines. that can help you. I do have few slides, but I'll try to share it with you or Og. But you can find all of these guidelines on Apple XR guidelines. You can find Google XR guidelines. You have Microsoft XR guidelines, which can really help you learn how to build from a UX and UI standpoint.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nitin Prakash. I hope, Gurpreet, you got your answer from our today's expert. So, someone is with us. She's
Mhm.
asking, what role does machine learning play in predicting user behavior and optimizing interfaces in real time?
Oh yeah, uh, machine learning is one of the key elements when it comes to how do you interact with AI. In a simple sense, again, I'm going to go back to your stereotypical examples, which is like if you search triangle in your Google, as I said, just triangle, the result that I get and the result that you would get are two different things. Now, how did the Google know that it has to do something for me? So I watch a lot of movies, so it does give me a triangle movie. For normal folks, it might give you a proper triangle and the geometrical understanding about it, right? So how does Google have these two things? Because their algorithm basically learns what are your preferences, where are the areas that you had more click through, where are the areas where you do not have any click through, etc. In a similar sense, when it comes to AI or any of these interfaces, this understanding, which is nothing but your machine learning, your machine is right now it's an algorithm that is learning, but when you're interacting with different elements in a 3D world or an AI world, it basically learns about you. For example, if you have used ChatGPT, you can go into the settings and look at your own product, your own knowledge base, which is ChatGPT knowing about you. So last time when I did it, the ChatGPT knew my name, knew my role in the company, knew what I do in day-to-day lives. It also knows what are the fun things that I'm more interested in. So machine learning plays a very crucial part in personalizing these elements because without personalization, AI somehow feels irrelevant.
Thank you so much. I hope all the participants got the answer from our today's expert, Mr. Nitin Prakash. If anyone have any questions regarding admissions, they just write on us at admissions@lpu.co.in. You can do WhatsApp chat with us. Our WhatsApp number is 9852569000. I'm repeating the number. It's 9852569000. Sir, if I'm not wrong, you want to show us something else?
Oh yeah, I do have few set of things that I would like to quickly
Yeah.
skim through. It's gonna hardly take about like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Is
everything
that
is
okay?
fine now. Yes, I'm not getting you.
What I said is I do have something that I want to show you. It's gonna take about like hardly
Okay,
five to ten
right,
minutes.
right.
If that's okay, I'll be happy to share.
So thank you so much, Mr. Nitin Prakash. And as we come to the end of this webinar, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our experts for sharing their valuable insights and expertise with us. Your presence, enthusiasm, and active participation have made this experience truly special. Hopefully, the attendees found this webinar to be valuable and will be able to utilize the information for better decision making regarding admissions. If anyone wants to access this webinar again, they can visit our website, that is lpu.in, or can be accessed on YouTube also. Stay connected with us for future webinars. Until we meet again, with the permission of my seniors, I would be signing off this webinar. Take care and goodbye. Have a beautiful day.